Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the LaunchDay podcast. I'm your host, Dean Cvetkoski, a.k.a. WhoDean. Today in studio, we have Rakz Marthur. Did I say your last name correctly?
Perfect.
Rakz Mathur. He's from Pounce Agency. Now, I'm not going to go and do the intro of who Pounce Agency is, who you are. I'm going to leave that one up to you. I'd love to hear it from your words. Rakz, how you doing today, man?
I'm well, thank you, Dean. Thank you for having me. It's just, it's an honor. Amazing to be here and see you in action. It's just really great.
That's good, man. I love it. And what do you think so far? How's the experience so far? Pretty good?
I like it, man. I like it. You make it feel all chill, so it's all gravy, it's all Gucci, as the Gen Z say.
Yeah. It's all gravy. It's all Gucci. For me, I like saying it's all Tiffany because I prefer Tiffany than Gucci. I don't know.
Fair.
Potato. Anyway.
But I mean, if I was to say it's all Balenciaga, it just doesn't have that vibe anymore, does it?
No, you just feel the vibe.
No.
Too good, man. Well, Rakz, look, man, tell us about Pounce Agency. What is Pounce Agency? What do you guys do? Run me through it.
Look, what an interesting time to actually have this conversation. We've just turned 7 last week on the 4th of last week's the 4th. Yeah, about a week ago. Bobby Schmurder style, 7th of Feb. 7th of Feb, we turned 7.
Yeah, 5 days ago.
4th, yeah. So when we first started, what's really interesting, Dean, is you wouldn't believe it, but when we first started, we were an agency that dealt specifically with B2B channel cybersecurity marketing. Okay. That's a mouthful in itself.
Hold on, wait. Cyber. So look, okay. To see now, I'm tongue tied. To narrow it down, cybersecurity marketing. So you just worked with cybersecurity firms? Correct. Okay.
But not was it just cybersecurity firms. It was in what they call channel, which means, you go about Norton antivirus out in public and you'll go to like Officeworks or JB or you buy it online.
Yeah.
We would be dealing with the distributors and the vendors and the channel that sold to those stores like JB Hi-Fi.
Okay.
So internal marketing. Okay. And it was a very, very interesting space to be in because budgets were super tight. Their expense to go, like for example, on digital, they would want to spend like, $800 on a video, but they spend $40,000 on an event, because they feel like they feel like sponsoring an event and getting those business cards and having those conversations was a lot more return on investment than something like brand building would be, right? And so we came out of this space. Well, I came out of this space 7 years ago when I came out of, so I was at Leo Burnett's, DDB, Saatchi's, and I came out of B2C consumer, big primo chip brands where you can charge like $30,000 for a landing page, to IT cybersecurity, but they're like, we don't want to pay you $800. Like for a what? Like you're going to have to pay me $20,000. I had to learn really, really quick guerrilla marketing in B2B. And so that when we first started, we started in that space. 7 years later, we've worked with some of the biggest cybersecurity brands. Necessarily the biggest don't mean they spend the most amount of money. We've worked with the government. We've worked with controversial clients, which I shall not ever mention. And we've worked in both B2B and B2C. And what we've found over the last 7 years is that we've become really specialized in being able to do end-to-end marketing strategy and then working with our direct team and our team of partners to be able to fulfill what those requirements are, whether it's a smaller budget or a larger budget. So what we also found in that last 7 years is we became the agency for all agencies. So what was happening was that a lot of the large agencies knew me. And so they were just coming to us to be like, can you do this? Can you digital produce this? Can you do this? We're like, sure, why the hell not? And because of it, we got to work with McDonald's, Domino's Pizza, CFS, and we were doing that in the guise of other agencies. And to this day, we still work on really mega agencies and their clients because they still posture a lot and they don't actually know what they're doing. And so like, that's the history of Pounce. We come from really complex marketing environments to now being in working in consumer marketing and through the line marketing and, integrated marketing, all these words for, we know how to work with like a shoestring budget, but we also know how to drive massive outcomes for our clients in whatever we do. We're not just stuck with like, how there's agencies that go, we're a digital marketing agency, We ran a hackathon for 500 people. Last year, we did 158 events where we organized these events for people. And then we did the digital market alongside with it, from booth design to banners, from videos to VSLs. We take pride in the ability to be full service. So that's what Pounce is. My role as COO really is I'm everyone's paper bitch, right? Like, so I look at it as like building processes, but really thinking about the innovative ways to offer services and do R&D in our product to make sure that we can drive the best outcome for our customers through the services that we offer. As you know, we've had a session about processes. Processes is a big, strong suite of mine personally, but it's not just for vain for processes and like chucking in a software because every guru is talking about a software. It's really about, really what's going to meet the purpose. And really, I look at enabling digital experiences and help the agency scale. And I've done that a couple of times with 4 or 5 different agencies outside of Pounce where I've gone to consult and really help them do that. I suppose what the mission statement is to equip people with the tools needed to express themselves creatively. That's my personal tombstone.
Okay. So we're talking, you went, okay, I'm just recapping here. So you went from B to C, then you went into B to B. That was a big slap in the face because you realized that they didn't have budgets like the big B2Cs do. Yeah. And then, you're providing a full service end to end. We're talking even down to event management, or we're talking about like more just event setup for
all of it. So theming, creative, management, setup, production, all of it. We've done it all.
Okay. What do you think your hero clients are right now? Like, what would you say would be your biggest clients that you have, and what are you doing for them currently?
So we have some clients that I can't mention the names of, but I can mention what we're doing for them. We're building mobile games to be a part of their sales initiative. So think like Fruit Ninja and how you can apply that to either an event or a digital campaign. Where you've got a bunch of mobile games on people's things, they get a whole sales force or their audience to start engaging, and off the back of it, they give a prize, right? So we've done that a lot over the last 24 months. We've done more than 42 games. So 1 game a month or 1 or 2 games a month we've done.
Okay. And so like, so I'm like, for me, my head's kind of thinking like Easter show. There's a big event happening, and then they introduce like a mobile game to increase audience engagement, and then gamify.
So gamifying experiences. There's 3 things in gamification. It's gamifying experiences, novelty, and education. Right? There's really 3 core pieces of that gamified experience. One of the first things that we did was novelty, just to get engagement on dwell time on websites. Then we did sales. So we did sales processes and product training through games, through quizzes and things like that. But really, a lot of it, we've also built like a Macca's Monopoly kind of long-term competition game with pricing associated for, heavy engagement. Interestingly enough, people like to hack these games when they come out. I have pretty interesting war stories about that too.
Yeah, very, very interesting. So where's the benefit? I mean, like, if we're talking about business, right? Because I don't know, for me, I feel like, implementing a game as part of your marketing efforts in your business, it doesn't sound like a very cheap exercise, right? It sounds
it's about
like
$20,000 for a game, right?
Say again?
It's about $20,000 to implement a game campaign.
Yeah.
Roughly speaking, because we are not developing a game mechanic from scratch, right? Because you can't develop Fruit Ninja from scratch because it's going to cost you millions of dollars. Yeah. So what we do is we do smart tech. We don't do game custom scratch. We do levered technology where we take game mechanics and really build them to customize for the scenario. So roughly speaking, you can spend up to $20,000 to $100,000 at the lower end for games. $100,000 might not sound like a low end thing for someone, but when you think about the term of the game and the level of engagement and the brand, recall people have from a game, that actually goes a long way in terms of like what is the campaign objectives. So one customer spent about $19,850 with us, literally about that much. I know the invoices, and they had 44,000 entrants, and out of those 44,000 entrants, it meant about 15 to 20% of them were fake entries, like they were junk emails and trying to spam bots. So if you cut that out, the rest of them were genuine email addresses that were then in their CRM for follow-up and nurture.
Okay.
Right? So it was their inline budget was just to get sure net new people were coming in to engage with the brand for brand awareness. So for them, that was a low-cost brand awareness piece because, we led up to the fact that there was an event, and then that people were going to the event, and the high scorers, the top 5 scorers, would get a $500 JB voucher at the event. So what it did was encourage 5 of the top players to come and invest in a $300 ticket because they know they're going to get a $500 voucher, plus integrate with the brand and recall with the brand to constantly engaging. Now, funnily enough, these people are smart. They would just give their kids the game to play and score on their behalf. They wouldn't play the game themselves, But
smart.
when you're talking about that sort of stuff, $20,000 is a good entry point, and $20,000 gives you something custom created to your brand and also out and live and entertain, engaged.
Okay. What would would you say that this is something that even smaller businesses could implement as well, or?
Smaller businesses, yes, they can do it from a lead gen perspective. People that are engaged, that have a brand that they want to amplify their brand, can do it. Because you know why? Everyone loves a good game. Everyone gets addicted and wants to, play it and score because there's something at the end. Now, the benefit is if there's something at the end of that game that they can work towards, that's even better. It triggers into our ability to be driven into addiction, sounds and music and all of that kind of stuff. We love to compete as humans. Everyone does, no matter what they say, especially if it's a game. They're looking at that high school leaderboard. They're looking to be able to get to the top of the leaderboard.
Did you say your business name was Aristocrat or Pounce Agency?
So Aristocrat's a really good and interesting case study because, one of the things that we got into gaming was because I noticed the impact that music had on repetitive action. And that is through going into, like, when I'd go with my friend to the poker machines at the Wenty leagues, and we'd see just people sitting there just constantly for hours playing a game, like hours. We would go and play table tennis at the Wenty Leagues Club in Sydney. But then I would see them and I'd see these guys, they're gambling hundreds and thousands of dollars. And that got me thinking, I'm like, gamification is a really great piece in the right environment to actually hook someone in for a brand message, right? Spend money with us. Cool. So it started, like, the inspiration was actually Aristocrat to actually launch a service that does that for brands. Funnily enough, I did apply for a job there a long time ago, but I didn't get it. Thank God I didn't get it because I would never be talking to you sitting here.
Absolutely. No, that's brilliant. And look, I think the pokey machines is a great example, right? Because you're right. When a game is good enough, I mean, even the most simplest games. I mean, let's take Flappy Bird as an example. You know what I mean?
It's a phenomenon.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It blew up. It really, really blew up. And it was the most simplest game possible, right? Like, it was, you tap the screen and your fucking bird, moves up a little bit.
Jumps.
You know what I mean? It jumps, yeah. You know what I mean? It flies higher or whatever it is, right? So,
production value nil. Like, I think about graphic value nil at the start. Think about now what TikTok's doing with trends, like, the filters, which allow you to do a score. What is that? That's a game. That's more engagement.
Okay. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. So, like, on the topic of marketing and content, right? So, what would be your advice to people now that are watching this interview, no matter where they are in business, if they're small, medium, large, or extra large, however you take your fries, right? What would be your advice to them, from a content perspective? I mean, we've now talked about TikTok and how, they're creating these little countdowns and scorecards and stuff like that, little games that you can play with the filters. What would be your advice to businesses, in the content space?
Yeah, look, I just literally came off a presentation with a client where it's a SaaS startup, right? Not a startup. They're quite mature in the B2B space in edutech, right?
Mm.
And the thing was, start with intent for video content first, right? Think about the ability to scale your content from long form to snackable. You can do that with video to then repurpose video for everything else. But you cannot go from a blog to a video without cutting your production costs.
Hey, yes, you. I'm talking to you. And I know it looks like the interview, but it's actually not. We're taking a really quick, short break so that way you can hear me out. I really want you to hear me out here. If you are a business owner, you are building your personal brand. I mean, you could be anyone. You could be a real estate agent. You could be an astronaut, an IT professional. It really doesn't matter who you are and where you fit into the world. This interview is great for you. If you're really struggling to make content, and let's face it, right? When we get our phones out and we're like, taking selfies and doing videos that way, it just comes across as inauthentic. And the other side of that as well is the fact that it's just so hard to come up with ideas of what kind of content to create. And this is where our interviews absolutely bring a powerhouse and an arsenal of, basically a war chest in terms of your organic content marketing that you're creating. We create the TikToks and Reels for you. Here's the thing. I've got some great news. The great news is that this interview is completely free. We boost your SEO on Google because we go and feature these videos like the one you're watching on YouTube. And not only that, but we also give you free content to post to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and all the rest of it as well. So if you haven't already, in the description down below is a link to Linktree where you'll see the opportunity for you to book your very own interview and get free content for your personal brand or your business as well. I'll see you on the other side of the screen.
Right?
Correct.
So start with video first. Oh, and by the way, I don't mean just think about only doing videos. Think about how your brand aligns to a treatment, aligns to a customer touch point, and how video can then hit that from a long form, a medium form, and a short form perspective, right? Snackable content that works for certain audiences. Longer form content works for certain audiences. Gamified experiences. You can do interactive video walkthroughs. You can do onboardings for your customers, or you can do onboardings for your staff. Video content, then you can write that down and build sales systems, and etc. etc. You know what I'm talking about, Dean. That's your game, and this is why I love what you guys do.
Pointing at me as you were talking. I'm pointing at me. I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's what we're here for.
Video first, and the reason because it's thought, right? It's narrative, it's sound, and it's vision, and they can be broken apart into multiple different components and leveraged. Whereas if you think about old school, it's not going to work. It's going to work, but it's going to be hella expensive.
Yeah. Like you think about the amount of effort, energy that you have to put into that, right? So, on the old school sort of methods, even more, even some modern methods are now considered old school when you think about it, right?
Yeah,
because they are digital methods, but they're not as effective, and it takes a lot more resources to actually get them to work. And I'm not just talking about pouring money into it to see if this is a good campaign or not, but the split testing that's going to be required, across all the different mediums to try and figure out what that magic formula is. And video, I agree with you, especially organic, because there was, when I was running my marketing agency as a marketing agency and not just like a web company making websites, one of the main things that when I was taking on new clients, I said, we don't do ads in the first month. And they're like, oh, why? Like, what do you mean? And then I would tell them, I'd say, so the first 2 months of our engagement, month 1 is creating content. Month 2 is testing the content. And then after we've tested the content, we look at which content pieces work the best in engagement, reach, algorithm. And then we use that content in your ads. So I agree with you in that sentiment, right? Because, you're absolutely right. It's creating the video first and then going and taking it to market and then sort of spreading your net, casting your net wider from there, and then going into all the different formats. And that's the best part too, because this whole conversation, we can, very simply, we can go and get a transcript of it, stick it in ChatGPT, and now we've got our blog article. So I wholeheartedly agree with you where you say video first, because it's such an easy way to really cover all aspects of your marketing. I agree with you.
100% agree. And like think about it. Like, let me just paint the picture in an an enterprise event perspective. If you have a brand X who doesn't think about video for anything until, oh shit, last minute, can you film some B-roll of people talking at the event and then smack together a reel, right? Like smack together a bunch of vertical content. And they've not thought about video and how it fits in their marketing stack. They miss the opportunity to have long form content, editable, a 4 terabyte hard drive that can then be leveraged for evergreen content, webinar live cast of their event to engage and expand the event experience to a larger broad base, a.k.a. any kind of empire event that happens now, right?
That's right.
Happens. And it's one of those things, commercialization of that video, like the collateral, then elongating it, drip feeding it, snackable content, PR content, off the thought of how do we make sure that we integrate video in our actual thing, rather than, let's just chuck a video on the videographer. It's a uni student with
you do a great
DSLR.
Australian accent, bro. That's a great accent.
Thank you. Years of learning.
All that's missing is a VB and you'd be right.
I mean, I don't have a VB, but like, I'm just saying, I have a Omen. This is a Grifter's dark oatmeal stout, which I tried last.
It's too Newtown, man. You got to.
It's too Newtown. It is actually very, very Newtown.
Yeah, exactly.
That was great product placement for Grifters. If you want to use that as marketing to reach out to them,
you can reach out to them and do some product placement, man. This is your interview. Yeah. For sure. No, good stuff, man. Good stuff. Well, look, what about you? I mean, we've covered about you, your business. What about you as an individual? Where have you come from? How was it like growing up? I mean, just a quick rundown. Run us through that.
What's your background, Dean? Like, what's your heritage?
Can you guess?
Are you Croatian?
No.
Serbian?
No.
Albanian?
No.
Russian?
No.
Man, I don't know.
Italian.
Macedonian. Why did I not say Macedonia?
Yeah, next to Greece. Next to Greece. I'm half Australian, half Macedonian.
Right. You were born in Australia?
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. And I asked pretext because I just wanted to get an understanding of if you knew. And sorry, how old are you? You're
28.
You're 28. Okay, I'm 41.
Couldn't tell.
40.
You don't look a day past 35, but that's okay.
Thank you. I will pay you later. When I first came to this country, it was 1992, right? The first words that I heard were "Go home, you're black, see, and you next Tuesday," right? I did not know.
Yep.
I did not know. And by the way, when I came and I stayed in the western suburbs of Sydney in a place called Blacktown, right? I didn't associate what "see you next Tuesday" meant, right? Because I had no idea. I came from India. I was born in India. I spoke Hindi. I read Hindi. I wrote Hindi at the time, and I spoke English, the Queen's English. That's what they taught us in middle class Indian private school, right?
Yeah.
And so we came here, and I was like, "What's a see you next Tuesday?" to my mother, who's an ethnic. And then the beating I got, I have this saying that I was born white, I was beaten this color because of all the trouble that I caused, right? Ethnics know that capital punishment is a thing. It's not a problem. We all got beaten. We all know it. We all acknowledge it. We're not woke. We all deal with it. Okay. Absolutely. So I suppose that was the start of my Australian journey. One of the biggest thing was a part of my life was assimilation because I did not like my Indian accent. I had a very strong Indian accent. And it took me 5 years of actually looking in the mirror and saying Blacktown-based swear words like red-headed rat, rude out.
Colloquialisms,
just totally. Like that.
Yeah.
To be able to learn and assimilate the accent, that makes me go, oh yeah, no worries, like that. To be able to first integrate. And I suppose that's when was the formative years. So from the time I was about 11 till about 16. At that age, I found...
just quickly, can you put on an Indian accent for us?
Hamisha? What do you want to know, beta?
I love it. It's cracker. And so it's not too far gone, right? I appreciate that. They still keep a bit of
It's
culture.
there, and there's a thing called Indian Tourette's. When we older heads, we slip into it like video. You want some chicken? It's there. It's full on there. I can turn it on and off anytime I want.
I fucking love it, man. That's great.
And I suppose at about 16, I found the most amazing, life-changing thing. Like, it blew my world. I went to this place where they were talking about this bloke called Jesus. and, and I was like, what? And then my brother's like, you should come. It's church. It's this and that. I'm like, nah, I'm straight, bro. I'm good. You go. I sat in the car. And then some guys from the church came out. They started talking to me, like you know what? You're like one of those rescue animals that are sitting in a cage. You're trying not to get. Anyway, they got me out of my shell, and I came out because I was like, I don't trust white people. I'm from Blacktown in Penrith. I went and saw these guys, these Polska guys. I love them to the day. Shout out to the Rotniak brothers. I love them to bits. They came out. They started talking to me, and we went inside this building in Penrith on the corner of Simeon and Frogmore Road, and there was a rock concert going on. Like this shit was insane. Drums and this and that. I had no idea of the concept of music. And I'm watching this thing. I'm like, who is that divine being that's sitting on the center of this stage in the background, not being noticed, but producing the most volumetric movement through their hands and feet with mats? It was the drummer. And I was like, I want to do that. Right? Never heard of it. I'm a coder. I'm doing development. I'm doing all of this kind of stuff. And then I picked up the drums. I said to my dad, I want a drum kit. And every waking minute of my life was infused with playing the drums. From the time I was 16 to the time I was 23, I started playing at gigs at 17, 18 years old. I started going international touring and playing as a musician. I started working in this space of creativity. And that just really took over my life. Right? Creativity was what fueled me. And then I developed a 15-person R&B group that would tour different places. And then we started building recording studios.
That's cool.
And so that is the foundational element. And what I really found in those formative years from 16 to about 23 or 28, roughly around that part, is that I'm two brains, left hand and right hand activated, that I can switch to Indian or Australian. I can switch to creative or technology at the drop of a hat. I can do it. I used to be in recording sessions. Like I was in the recording session with Guy Sebastian's brothers. I was in recording sessions with Joey Badass at the time he came to Australia. I've done sessions. I used to work eventually got my way into working into Sony Music. I don't know how I did that, but I did an internship and then I got a job there. I was working with international artists doing digital ops and doing the first streaming platform in Australia called Bandit.fm. I was working on the digital team. And then it all went away. I got made redundant from the job that I loved.
Wow.
Yeah. And I still remember it was the most painful day when that happened, when the music industry in Australia was collapsing. I got made redundant. I was like, I don't know what to do. This is what I've lived for. This is what I've done. And then I got called into this place that I was like a few years later, like a year later, looking like a hobo. I walked into this place called Dale, Doyle and Burnbank. And it's called, the shortened letters were DDB. And I was like, what the hell's DDB? All right. And then I was like, what's DDB? Like, this is the role, da 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 da. I'm like, so I'm a babysitter. I take things from a creative team and I give it to a technical team to then produce an output. Yes. Sweet. And that started my advertising journey. That progressed into me 6 months later becoming the head of production, into multiple agencies, so on and so forth.
That's awesome.
But at the same point, it always remained the boy from Blacktown that was watching that divine creature playing the drums. And to this day, I've gone ahead and created record labels. I've done recording studios. I've built things. It's interesting when we talk about, creative. My ears prick up. It drives everything that I am and everything that I do. And it's the passion for why I live. And so when I had the opportunity to do Pounce, I'm like, sweet. We're going to bring the disparity. Like, what's interesting? Here's a fun fact. In the years 2000, 2005, a musician would get about $4,000 or $5,000 for a wedding gig or a corporate gig, and five of them would split that, and they'd get $1,000 for 4 hours or 3 hours, 2 sets. They would practice up to 40 hours for that $1,000 per person, right? On the same side, a company called Songzu would get $50,000 to take a piece of music and put some other pieces of music on it and repurpose it. They would charge $800 to $1,500 to take the piece of music out of a video and could do what they call a restrike, which is replace the audio with the video. I found about this disparity and I was like, sweet. Eventually, I'm going to create something that's going to change this disparity, that's going to bring the money that exists in large brands to creatives across. And so was my ethos form. I exist to equip people with the tools needed to express themselves creatively. And that's how everything, that's my personal brand. That's why I live.
That's awesome.
It's why when we talk about reverse formulas of platforms and things not happening versus, I'm like, right, I already know in my toolkit what we can do, blah, 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 bang, let's go creative, let's go logical, let's do this. That's everything about me in a nutshell. And now, even now, I play drums. This mess of this place that you've got is actually a recording studio. I've got mics, I've got speakers, I've got djembes, and I've got other percussion instruments there. But yeah, percussion is my mainstay instrument, but I can play keys and bass as well.
Definitely set up for audio, not video. Am I right?
You're 100% right there. 100%. But not this one, because actually my PC is meant to be coming back today from service. I got this custom PC built from Aftershock, which is like this beast.
Nice.
And
yeah. I know Aftershock. They're sick. That's good. That sounds exciting, man. Well, listen, Rakz, it's been a brilliant interview. I really feel like we need to have like another interview that goes for like 2 hours long. I just think there's so much to explore and so much to share. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
You know, but I do appreciate it. Honestly, I really enjoyed this chat. And, you know, I've learned a few things about you that I didn't know. I didn't know you were a Western Sydney boy, you know? So
what? I'm not a city boy. I will never claim to be a hills boy either. I'm a Blacktown boy all the way.
I love that, man. I grew up in Fairfield. So
love it. Respect.
Cabramatta more specifically, right? So, you know, no, I know the feeling definitely. But Rakz, hey, listen, man, there's going to be a bunch of people that are watching this interview that want to reach out to you and get in touch. I mean, how do they do that?
Well, you can email me at Rakz at Pounce Agency. That's Pounce like a tiger and the word agency.com.au. Or you can find me on most social. I'm on Facebook. Okay, boomer. I'm on Instagram Reels. I'm on TikTok. If you guys think it's Rakz, on TikTok as well. I have a profile where I use TikTok to actually consume a lot of content, but I actually like when I travel, I document my travel on TikTok. So yeah, you can find me on that. You can message me on any channel, but mainly if you really, really want to speak to me, old school, just grab my email address, give me a call, and we can shoot the shit.
That's awesome. And if any of you at home want to get directly in touch with Rakz, you're more than welcome to email us as well at support@launchday.au. So we'll be more than happy to put you in touch with Rakz directly. And thank you so much, Rakz, for coming by, man. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
No worries. And we'll see you all on the next episode of the LaunchDay Shorts podcast.